Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
Hey, it's Derek Richards here in Las Vegas. Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Thanks for joining me. I am just over here checking my my baseball bets, which is so pathetic because I'm a huge sports fan. And I got my butt kicked in baseball bets yesterday, which is awful. I'm a big sports fan. I love betting football and hockey. And now I'm stuck just with baseball. To me, this is like the worst time of year. I mean, I like baseball fine enough, but football and hockey are my sports, and so I'm stuck. I want to just have some little action on the games, and I just got absolutely murdered yesterday. But what are you going to do? Here in Las Vegas, that's how we roll. Anyhow, glad to have you here for the podcast. I'm going to be on the road here coming up in August quite a bit. Actually, catching a couple of cruise ships here between now and then, but August 11th, going to be at the Last Mango Theater in Daytona, Florida. August 12th, 13th at the Riverside Theater in Vero Beach. August 17th week in Sarasota, Florida at McCurdy's Comedy Club. And then August 22nd week in Las Vegas at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club at the MGM Grand. My website, DerekRichards.com, has all of my tour dates. And also grab a copy of my album, Double Down, whenever you are out trolling the internet. Grab it on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon. Recorded live at Laughing Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers, Florida. Had such a great time recording it. Very happy the way it came out. You can also hear it on Sirius XM satellite radio. But now, my guest today, excited to see this guy. I've had the pleasure of working with him on a couple of Royal Caribbean cruise lines. He is a singer, impressionist, Motown recording artist, and the godson of the late Sammy Davis Jr. He's opened for Richard Pryor on his Live on the Sunset Strip recording. He's also worked with Rodney Dangerfield, Jay Leno, and Robert Klein, one of the most diverse all-around entertainers working today. You can catch him at casinos, corporate events, and he is a regular on Royal Caribbean cruise lines. Please welcome Finis Henderson here on A Drink with Derek.
Be entertained by the ultimate entertainer, Finis Morongo.
Guess what? Them good girls, straight masterpieces.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
The moves like Jagger, I've got the moves like Jagger.
His palms are sweaty, these weak arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already.
Girl with the diamond ring, she really know how to shake that thing on.
Grab somebody sexy, tell them, hey, give me everything tonight.
I can't get no.
I'm doing this tonight. No, probably gonna start a fight.
He's really a terrific entertainer, and it's a really nice balance. I'll do the comedy, he does the music, and he's pretty funny too.
It was really nice. It was gonna be a good fight tonight.
That's what I'm telling you. It's a great fight tonight. I'm telling you, everybody's here. Look, Mike Tyson, you're here. First of all, I just want to say I'm just happy to be in this place.
Wanna hold your hand and please say to me.
Love is a burning flame, and it makes a fiery rain.
If you can't hear what I'm trying to say, if you can't read from the same page.
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Italy and Ness. The summer wind came blowing in across the sea.
Be entertained by the ultimate entertainer, Finis Morongo.
Now, before people go lining up to buy tickets for that show, that show happened already. That's a great demo clip, and so we don't go online and go, hey, where's Finis August 25th?
Oh, man.
How you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
Good to be seen. Good to be seen, Derek. Thank you for having me. My pleasure, brother.
No, man, I can't thank you enough for taking time out. I know your schedule is always slam-packed, working out on the cruise lines and doing, like I said, casinos, corporate events, and everything else, too. So it's funny because I had talked with a buddy of mine back in Detroit, comedian, who had worked with you years ago at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And it was funny because I know, right? And because I had seen your name for years working at Comedy House Theaters when I was starting out, and you were headlining, and we never had crossed paths. And then I just run into you on Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas when I was working with Scott Henry, and we just had a great time that week. And then subsequently on the what was it, literally like 2 or 3 weeks later when I was with Steve McGrew, and we were back on Royal Caribbean on Adventure of the Seas going out of Galveston. So
Yeah, man, bonding, doing our thing. It was wonderful having someone to talk to in the morning because I'm always up, and everybody else is like, you don't always do it, but it was special, and I'm glad that we got a chance to spend time together.
no, it was great. It was cool because we're sitting out there having coffee. I think we go through like three or four cups of coffee, just sitting there hanging out and just joking around and BSing. So it was just it was great, man, and so much fun to watch your show.
I think we were having therapy.
Yes, it was. It really and it really does kind of become therapy when you're talking to other entertainers that you connect with, because so many people that you work with on the cruise lines, I mean, everybody goes off and does their own thing. So when you can connect with somebody and be able to have a good, productive conversation, it's always a lot of fun. Yeah. So you're keeping yourself busy.
I'm
got a little bit of time off now.
Busy as much as I possibly can, So it's good, Being home is a job because it's so much to do here because just of the property we have. It's always has to be like, get the gardeners in, cut this back. The wife wants this done. Get more stones. Do this. She's constant. So I have to come in my studio to just get away from her, But it's good to be home, and it's good to go off and work. So the balance has been great. At this time in my life, I'm not looking for the TV series or the big moments where they, well, not that the career's over or anything like that, but I'm good with working with the different cruise lines and the different theaters that I've had the pleasure, like Morongo and Casino, different casinos. So it's just been great having this nice little time of my life, I guess, before I go off into the pasture.
Very, very well put. I mean, you come from a musical family. Your dad was a song and dance man, and he was also the vice president of Sammy Davis Jr. Enterprises. And Sammy was your godfather. How did that relationship start with your dad and Sammy?
Well, my father, a song and dance man, and he and Sammy had, I can't tell you exactly when, the year they hooked up. As a child, I just, Sammy would, when he was in town, he's been over to the house. They've had functions at the house. And Dad, when Sammy was on Broadway, like in the 60s, was doing Golden Boy. It was our first trip as a family to go to New York. And, and it was that time that I had not only the first time in New York, but met a few of the friends my dad, had, was associated with, as well as Vice President Sammy Davis Enterprise. Father had worked with other artists as far as like in management, like black artists like Godfrey Cambridge, Jerry Butler, the Iceman, Dick Gregory, managed Red Fox. Did a lot of things. Did the big tribute at Carnegie Hall with the Rat Pack, Harry Belafonte for Martin Luther King, of which I have the watch that Sinatra and Sammy gave my dad with inscriptions, on it about that event. So he was just surrounded, as some people that are in the business will be, with these different celebrities, and it seemed definitely exciting to be around the energy. And so they just got it. They were like big brother and little brother, Sammy and my father, and they clicked, and it was exciting to be around.
That is so cool. What made you? I mean, obviously you're a great singer, dancer. I mean, just all around entertainer. What made you get into doing impersonations?
Well, watching Sammy do it, watching the likes of George Kirby, which I don't know if you guys know some of these people, because these are George Kirby was most frequent at my home, and he was like a play uncle. He was one of the first black entertainers to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he did, impressions. He did Pearl Bailey and the stars of that time. And
Sure.
I just would goof around. I had a tape recorder. Like when Sammy finished Golden Boy, he gave my father the limo that he used, and we had a limo. In that limo, I had a tape recorder, and I got that tape recorder and started clowning, doing little voices and stuff like that. But I had no idea about the impressions thing. I was just a kid that was playing around with hearing your voice back on a tape recorder and
Sure.
being around the different artists, and eventually, with my mother's help, segued into singing, because she was always like, with the home recording, here, sing this song. And Silhouettes was one of the songs that I recorded when I was little. Silhouette, 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 silhouette. That's an old song, but it kind of started.
I remember that song.
like that.
My mom had that song. My mom had that song on a 45. I remember her playing it. I remember going through
Yeah,
her records.
am I going back too far? Well, I mean, obviously, I'm
Not at all.
21.
No. And what's cool about you and your act is that you are so diverse. I mean, where you can go up and you're doing Sammy Davis Jr., you're doing Frank Sinatra, but then you do Bruno Mars and Eminem. And so,
Right,
I mean,
right.
when you're doing your show, anybody that's coming out to it, it's not like it's just a bunch of older artists. I mean, you keep yourself very relevant.
Yeah, I try to. I think it's important, especially with the kind of audiences that we all encounter. You want to give, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, the classics, and I like to try to, I like to sing. So sometimes I'm not doing an impression. I'm just doing because the song is popular and I like singing it. So everything that I do is not necessarily like these impressions. There are some impressions I do. I'm not like the man of 1,000 voices. I've been titled that a few times, but no. I just there's some voices I can do and some I can't, so I don't do them.
Well, how did you end up going from? And it's a cool story how Mitzi Shore from the Comedy Store saw you.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting from where you were singing and doing your impressions on stage to all of a sudden now you're morphing into, not morphing, but now you're transitioning into doing the comedy clubs?
Well, I moved to California. I had a band in Chicago, and we had done years of the clubs, opening up for Earth, Wind and Fire, Average White Band, and Isley Brothers, Funkadelic. We had reached a level where we were good enough to open up for these other acts. Prior to that, I've been, we had a club where we kind of got our development, of which before that group, which was named Weapons of Peace, I was with a big band that my mother and father, knew the guy that had a band, and my mother stepped in and said, well, my son likes to sing. And the guy was at the house and he said, listen, get your favorite record. I'll get arrangements made. And that's how that started. He got arrangements made and we would go and I would practice with the band, and that band toured around in the summer in Chicago. From that band came the nucleus of the Weapons of Peace, the band. And so I was with that band. From that band, time passed, I moved to California to do a solo thing, and I was going to be signed up to sing with my cousin, Al McKay, who was a guitar player with Earth, Wind and Fire. In the interim, as I'm working with material with Al, living in Los Feliz, I went up to the Comedy Store and found out that they had audition night. So I went up to the Comedy Store, and you have to sign in, and then you can go on that night. Well, I just happened to be in the area. I was like, on a bike with shorts on and everything. And they said, well, if you leave after you sign, you might lose your place. So I ended up staying there and going on stage that night and Mitzi was there, and I don't know what I did a few little impressions and my personality. I don't know what I did, but anyway, she called me back, and when I came back, I died. It was horrible, but they had a thing like on Monday and Tuesdays where you can sign up and do improv. You can start with a small group with learn how to do improvisation and technique and stuff. That kept me. That at least gave me an opportunity to be on stage, because you can go on stage that night. You know, it was terrible, but you at least had the experience of going on stage.
Sure.
And if you developed in time, Mitzi would put you with a group and give a title. You know, so eventually time worked in my favor, where she put me in a group called Strudel, which was with Judy Gold, Tom Wilson, and eventually for a minute Andrew Dice Clay was with it. During that time, I'm singing in the belly room at the Comedy Store and singing next door whenever I could sing something. And this is also the time when Richard had been in the fire, almost died, and was making his return to the Comedy Store to work on material for whatever project he was going to do next. So that ended up being an opportunity, because I always had my music with me, and anytime you're trying to get discovered. So anytime you could sing or do something, you like, here's my music, And always at the Comedy Store they had, a piano player. And am I talking too much? I got to explain.
No, not at all. No, this is like our conversation. We were hanging out having coffee on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
So I mean, so you connect with Richard Pryor, and I want to pull up some of these pictures that you had sent, by the way, which are fantastic. Sean, go ahead and pull up this is the picture of your dad is on the far right. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's Finis Jr. I'm the third. So yeah, that was on the set of Robin and the Seven Hoods, and he was managing Brooke Benton at the time. Brooke Benton was the, Rainy Night in Georgia was one of his big hits.
Sure. So you got Dean. So left to right. So you got Sammy, Bing Crosby.
So you got my father. Then you have with the hat on Dean Martin. Then next to Dean is Brooke Benton, Sinatra, Bing Crosby, and Sammy.
Wow.
And
what a picture.
These were,
what a great
Bing Crosby was like the singer. Bing Crosby was like the first, along with Rudy Valley and those guys in the 20s. Before that, it was about the opera, those type of vocalists. And then Bing, and then the next iconic singer that style-wise is Sinatra. These are just, fabulous.
That's
unbelievable for historians,
That picture is so cool. The next shot here, this is at the Comedy Store after hours. If I'm not mistaken,
this is at the Comedy Store, and this is the thing that I was lucky to get this from David Tyree. This was an example of what I was saying when Richard was working on material for what would become Live on the Sunset Strip. So after he would do his sets, Mitzi would close the club, and people would hang out. Here's the example of one of those nights and that's me with the striped shirt with my back. The guy next to me is David Tyree. Richard's got his hand over his face. That's Mike Binder right by Richard. Lady Di and Fergie in the back. Willie Nelson, Sally Field, Burt Reynolds, and I don't know if that's Bruce Baum or somebody. I'm not sure about that. Wow. That was one of those nights. And what had happened was that one of those nights was when everybody was there, and I gave my music to the piano player in the corner, and I started singing. And it got quiet. And the next thing I know, Richard gestured over, get the boy a mic, let him, and they put a mic on stage, told me to come over and sing. I ended up doing some songs, started doing some impressions and stuff. Then Richard comes on stage, Robin Williams comes on stage. We start clowning and doing some improv stuff, because Robin is, he takes over, And
Sure.
that started. And then later that night, Richard gets, everybody was hanging out, you know, beside the stars. Not this particular night, but one of those nights when this happened. He said, everybody, let's go next door to the Hyatt House. And he rented 2 rooms, and everybody, like 25 people, go over to the Hyatt House. And we're all in this room, and Richard and Robert aren't there. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And then somebody comes and gets me. It might have been Sean, his bodyguard, got me and brought me to the room where they were. So Robert and Richard started telling me of how they were excited about, wow, man, you're so talented and everything. And I'm like in awe, first of all, to be in their presence. And
Oh,
for them
yeah.
to even making comments about my singing and me doing stuff. And
Sure.
we sat there, and I'm just, you know, mesmerized. And that was one of those special nights, you know, we bonded. That was the initial night of the famous Right Place at the Right Time. And the rest of the month or whatever, it was every night it was something like that. Until he eventually got to the point where I get a call from Paul Mooney that says, are you sitting? If not, if you're standing up, sit down. I have some news for you. Richard wants you to be his opening act for Live on the Sunset Strip. Bam. So that I was on my knees with thank you, Lord. I was
Yeah.
so wow. And so that started the whole ball rolling with doing the shows at the Circle Star Theater in preparation for the filming at the Palladium that we did at the Circle Star in San Francisco a couple of nights. I remember because in New York, in San Francisco, I remember one night we were up in Richard's suite, and Huey P. Newton was there for the Black Panthers, head of the Black Panthers.
Wow.
So anyway, it was a bunch of celebrities, but because I remember I met one of the Beach Boys and a lot of celebrities were coming. You know, everybody was coming.
Oh, yeah.
So
What
anyway,
was-
yeah.
What do people not know about Pryor? I mean, you obviously had spent a lot of time with him. What do people not know about him?
I don't have a lot of information that I could tell you about Richard other than him being gracious to me of giving me an opportunity to be seen at the Live on the Sunset Strip, of which Suzanne DePass and was the one that saw me, that I ended up getting signed by Motown Records, and Dick Griffey was with Solar Records. So I had 2 companies that were trying to sign me. So
Right.
Richard's just being at the right place at the right time. Richard was just gracious to me. I mean, I'm sure, you know, everybody's got a story. I don't have, you know, we never hung out in long lengths of time. Most of our hanging out was just the fact that he would come up to hear me sing in the belly room. And, you know, a couple times he was so loaded, you know, where he couldn't drive his Rolls Royce home. So the limo came and he gave me the keys and told me to drive his Rolls Royce home. And I was like, oh, fuck, man, the Rolls Royce, man, look at this. You know, I'm following the limo. And he said, anyway, I was like, man, this, I was like, fuck, a Rolls Royce. I mean, that thing was like a monster and fast. And obviously I couldn't do nothing because I'm following the limo. And then I get a thing in an orchid the next day from Richard telling, you know, thanks, Finis, for of which I've got in one of my albums, you know. As
Sure.
But, you know, just every night, again, as he's preparing for the Live on the Sunset, you know, everyone's coming out again because of the fire, and they thought he was going to die. So this was
Sure.
him back on the scene. So Belushi, I remember Belushi coming in one time, and he said, "Where's Richard?" And I'm standing in the hallway at the Comedy Store, and I said, "He's in the room." He said, "Wait." And he takes a thing of aspirins and puts it down his throat, you know, and then runs it and falls out with it all spewing out of his mouth, just doing silly stuff.
Sure.
Just crazy stuff. So
That's great, though. I mean, just to have to
Yeah.
be in the presence of Richard Pryor. I mean, clearly one of the faces of on the Mount Rushmore of comedy, and just to be able to have that experience that you had, and have the relationship that you did have with him, even though it wasn't super close. But I mean, just to be able to
Yeah.
be able to hang with him and be a part of that legendary recording is insane.
Well, that ended up creating the during the interim, I'm working still with the improv group, and Mitzi's giving me a little time at Westwood and putting my little act together with some impressions and singing. So
Sure.
after the Richard Pryor thing, that kind of just catapulted me to another level with Mitzi, as well as being signed to Motown Records now, and I'm getting main spots now. So that's how that segue from like nothing, and some time passed, till I got some kind of a little act together,
Sure.
and doing impressions and Michael Jackson. Both our albums came out at the same time. And if you look at my album, it's like I'm in the same kind of a pose. I don't even know who picked this shit. Obviously, it's no comparison from the Thriller and me, but
Pull up the picture of his album, Sean. This is hang on, we got this. I
have no
I
idea
love this.
why.
I
This
love
is so
this.
ridiculous. Because they got it's like I don't have a choice. I'm young, and I'm thinking like, oh, Hollywood, where you sign with MGM or you sign with Motown, like the old days, that they come, they groom you, they pick the things but it wasn't like that. It was I missed that era. I was where Motown was starting to getting into film, and they would like working on
Okay.
The Last Dragon and doing other stuff. And when my record came out, eventually, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. You were hoping that you're signed to a major label. They're gonna school you, direct you, educate you, groom you, and that boat didn't come in because I don't know. A lot of things could have happened, as all
Sure.
of us know in our careers. The different things, enough things have happened, but you think of it like, well, should I have turned this way, or it's like playing a video game. Okay, don't go down that hall this time, or make sure
Right.
you got enough ammo. But
Now,
it
when
was
did that
still
album?
wonderful.
When did that album come out for you? That would have been what? If that came out the same
83.
time as Thriller, that would have been what? 83 then? Okay. Now, did you already
And then when
have
it came
all the
out-
songs? Did you already have all the
No,
songs
we were
recorded?
selected. We were no. Once I got signed, then it was I wanted. I was with Al. Al had quit Earth, Wind and Fire. We were living together. Al had quit Earth, Wind and Fire, and he had formed his own group called Prophecy, of which I was in that group.
Right.
And when I got my Motown thing with Richard, I wanted to kind of, I got that on my own, so I wanted to quit, Al's group and do my own thing.
Sure.
But I wanted Al to be the producer. So he ended up. And during that time, I'm working at right across from the Scientology building, a place called $2 Bills, and doing a show with my band.
Sure.
And during this time, I'm being courted because I'm not assigned officially to Motown yet. They're courting me. My father's in town. He knew Suzanne DePass. Suzanne being, the head, one of the heads at Motown, executive. The one who
Gotcha.
discovered
For
Jackson.
acquisitions and acquiring talent? Okay.
Right. And that night at the Palladium when we did this show, Suzanne was there and Stevie Wonder was there, and so again that process of them trying to pursue me to sign, and they also Dick Griffey was interested in signing me, so I met with both of them. So eventually, we're working on the album. And we're selecting songs, just like people writing things. I've written some songs. I've wrote a couple songs myself. And during that time at the $2 Bills, as I was after the Richard Pryor concert, I would be doing these shows, and everybody was coming out. You know, guys that I knew, Arsenio, we were hanging pretty tough during that period. Different artists were coming in. So one night, Suzanne comes, Berry Gordy comes, Stevie Wonder comes, Jermaine Jackson comes, and a lot of stars come to the club to see me. This particular night.
This is that club, $2
And
bills.
$2 Bills.
Right.
And word comes on stage that Stevie wants to come on stage. So Stevie, you know, I mean, as a Stevie, I said someone special in the audience, I'd like to bring him up on stage. Stevie wants. So Stevie comes on stage, and he sits at the piano. We lead him to the piano, and he starts chording and everything, and he starts talking. I'm so excited to be here on behalf of Motown Records. I want to welcome Finis to Motown, and I wrote a song. The song, because he wrote so many songs, you know, so he didn't like write this just for me. He just has a plethora of of songs.
You know what? You know what? You should say that he wrote it just for you. Say that he wrote it just for you. You know what? Who's gonna deny that story? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so he plays the song, and it's called "Crush on You," which is on the album, and he presents it to me, and I wish I had said, "Great, wonderful. Let's go to your studio tonight and record it, so I can have your background." Opposed to he gave me the song, and Al did his version of it. I would have liked. I would have being that Motown was the people that could have, in my mind, changed the course of Mighty Rivers, been still with their bare hands. Right. Suzanne could have easily said, you know, like, Stevie, would you produce at least 5 songs off of the album, or do the whole album, or, you know, produce half the album and then let Al do the rest, you know. I don't know why that didn't happen. So that was one of those moments where you say, I wish I could have just, because I can't think for everything. You know, some people are very, opportunity knocks, and they're right there. They just
also too. I mean, this is you're being courted by Motown Records. I mean, it's a legendary record company. So I mean, and this is your first. This is your first album. It's not like you had 4 albums already in the catalog for him. So I mean, you can't really. What can you really say at that point? You're like, you know what? Here's what I'd like. I would like Stevie Wonder. Yes, exactly. You're just happy to have the logo on your album. So yeah, for you, you know, what could you have possibly said where you went, I really like to have, I want David Ruffin to come in here and help me out. I want Stevie to do a couple songs. I want to have, give me Diana Ross to sing background
in my mind. Stuff. Yeah. Well, Derek, I don't think it would have gone that far, but I mean, at least all we needed was Suzanne to say, "Listen, Stevie, would you do a couple songs of the album?" She could have stepped in and made that happen, or because I didn't think that way. In the same way, the same thing about the 25th anniversary of Motown Records, of which the big 25th anniversary that they play sometimes. Right. Richard is the host. My album just came out. I went down to the studio because that's when I met Michael. Right. And again, that thing of like, well, listen, I'm signed with Motown. Richard's the host for this TV series. This is the one where Michael did the moonwalk. I'm a new artist. Why would we not? Richard, could you say something to Suzanne about the fact that, I was discovered on your, concert show, and had me do something.
So
you said
that to Richard?
No, this is what I should have said. This is that moment where you wish you'd open your mouth and said something. Oh yeah. This was one of those angry moments that it's like, well, why didn't she? Again, she's Suzanne. She's producing it. She signed me. You can't put two and two together, motherfucker.
Right. So the album comes out, and then the album comes
My
out.
album comes out.
So,
heavy.
So
heavy
what happens
rotation.
after that? Okay.
Album comes out heavy rotation, which means they're playing it all the time.
Sure.
Comes real big in Japan. Rick James's record comes out, and then mine fades away. We released another song off of the album, and it just, it peaked. I had my billboard up there on Tower Records. That was the place where Tower Records, whatever the albums were, they had on the side of the building, the big custom painted of the album.
Did you get a picture of that? You got a picture of that somewhere? You've got to have a picture of that somewhere.
Those were the days before iPhone and shit. I didn't have.
No, I got it. I get it. I totally understand.
But still.
So that. No, exactly. So now. Hey, listen, there's so many people that would cherish to have even that little snippet of time. And like I said, as you look back at it and say,
I'm humbled for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how many groupies did you get off of that album cover? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean,
the album covers. That's sexy as hell. Come on now.
Pussy talk, man. I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, you're on stage, you're a lead singer. That it's always been like that. If you're in a band, you don't really have to have a rap. If it's, and it's a candy store. It's crazy.
Sean, pull up that album cover one more time. This is what Finis. Is. There you go. Look at that.
I don't know who I thought I was.
I think it's great. I think that is fantastic. Let me ask you this. I want to go back for a second because we talk about Sammy Davis Jr. being your godfather. What was you're growing up with him? He's at the house. I mean, did you at any point in time when you were growing up, did you have any idea who he was? Or was he just Sammy?
You knew that he was. Well, first of all, we were going to the shows, to the Shapery whenever he was in town. So we went to see the shows. So it's like you're looking at the live music, the band, the pretty women. He's something.
Mm-hmm.
And you're excited. Because I've been to shows before. Because of the show business environment that I was raised in. So, I would really be shy. Because he just represented such a energy, and he was, when he married my Brit, I remember them coming over, I mean, it wasn't like he was there all the time, but there were instances, my Brit jumping rope with my sister on one of the visits, and, him, staying over at the house because my father gave a party for him or something like that.
Sure.
So, just Sammy represented just like, wow, just, whenever he came in town, that's when you saw him. I remember us going down to Hefner's because my father was booking acts at the Playboy Club when the original one was in Chicago, the original mansion, and Sammy would stay there a lot because I remember going down there one time with my father. He said, "Come go with me. I'm going over to Hef's to get." Sammy left some things there. He left a bunch of clothes, of which I ended up wearing. These custom silk shirts and leather stuff.
Oh, man.
So, and then to find, and it's just.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, I had no idea the relationship that you had with him, and then to see the video clip that you have on stage that you play where Sammy Davis Jr. is talking about you, that is really, really a cool thing to see.
Well, I was able to get that because Mitzi wanted to do a station. This was before like a HBO or something where I think she was even asked to put a comedy channel together, of which she never got into. But she gave me permission to do some footage, and could I get Sammy to endorse? Of which that was I was able to get that as well as have him comment on our relationship.
No, that video is super cool.
Yeah,
Of him talking about you. That's a nice endorsement to have.
Yeah, and he was probably in his, I would say, in his like late 50s when he died. He was 64 years old when he died. That's young.
Forgot how young he was when he passed away.
I know, man, but what a life. I mean, as far as
what an incredible life. Now, did you end up hanging out with anybody else from the Rat Pack at all? I mean, from being around your father and
Derek,
around Sammy?
You have to remember, I was a child. My father was the one hanging out. My father was the one that Dean Martin burned him with the aerosol torch, clowning, and hit his shoulder. You know how you light the lighter and you.
Oh yeah.
You got burnt. Yeah, you got burnt. Like, so I don't have those kind of stories. I just have stories where we went and stayed at the went down to like Ambassador East when Sammy was there and Sinatra, and then we're in the hallway, and here comes Sam Giancana, and I'm there with my father, and I see this one moment, and I knew that this was Sam Giancana because he owned the Villa Venice, which was the club that Sinatra and Sammy and Dean and them out in the suburbs of Chicago would perform. And and I say that on stage, when I do Sinatra's thing, I said I remember Dad took us to this club called the Villa Venice, which was owned by a man named Sam Giancana. Now, people are like, only the old folks would know, who Sam was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Sam was connected.
Yeah, he was the head of the Chicago, mafia.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And so it was just a lot of crazy stuff. And then again, Sammy would come in town. I remember one time he was going to be at the Sheraton downtown, and we went down the day he came in. He was going to open the next night, and that night they all went down, and I was with my father. He let me, the few times he let me hang with him. I'm a little older, I'm 12 or something.
Sure.
And Father's Brochure this is their closing night. This is the Gay Paris topless show straight from Paris that's playing the night, they're closing. So Sammy and his retinue or posse, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Go to the show, and I'm there with it, and with the dancing girls and the topless. I'm like, just like, wow, And then after the show, Sammy invites everybody up to his suite, and I'm there, it's just observing, and these just beautiful women and stuff, and wow.
Oh, the education you got as a young man.
I know. Because years later, I end up, having my own little. I dated a couple bunnies, and I ended up getting signed to Playboy Records. Before I moved to California, my father was, because of his relationship with Hefner.
Right.
What happened was, when my father took Hugh Hefner, and I do it in the show. He took Hugh Hefner and Victor Lowndes to John F. Kennedy's inaugural ball as his guest, because Joseph Kennedy had some issues.
Your dad took them?
Took them.
Wow.
And how it happened is that Joseph Kennedy, even though there were black performers performing for the inaugural parties, Harry Belafonte, who was married to a white woman, he had an issue over Sammy married to my Brit, and did not want Sammy there. So Sammy didn't go, but his tickets, Peter Lawfer had it, and Peter Lawfer gave the tickets to my father. My father, having, doing business with Hefner, had tickets for them, so they all went
Oh
to
man.
John F. Kennedy's inaugural ball as my father's, and they stayed at whose mansion? They stayed at the Interior Secretary of Interior. I forgot his name. But anyway, so years later, when my band, the Weapons of Peace, you know, Hefner was dating Barbie Benton, and she wanted to sing, so he created Playboy Records, and
Right.
my son has a group, and we went downtown to Chicago to talk to the powers that be, and I had my little tape of my band, and they played it, and pretty much nepotism, and my father being who he is, they signed me up to Playboy Records,
so
and I come out to California to record in 1976. That's the first time I came to California, and I ended up moving here 4 years later. Is this story too funny? Is it like this?
No, not at all, man. This is literally, people that are watching this and listening to this, this is literally what it was like when we were hanging out, having coffee and talking about stuff. Because, like I said, I didn't know about your background, and so you're referring to things in so matter of factly. I'm like, whoa, wait, back up. What? Who were you hanging with? You were where? Your dad was with what? So, but I mean, you grew up with that. So that's what you were used to. So it's just so second nature for you to have just conversations like that. So this is exactly how our conversations were when we were hanging out. What do you think is the biggest mistake that you felt you ever made in your career?
Well, as my mother would say, she would say, all things happen for a reason, and these are the things that have developed you to be who you are. That being said, I think we all have a list of mistakes and everything. I think one of the biggest mistakes is with anybody would be just making sure that you are solvent, educated enough to take care of your money properly. When you have those opportunities, to make sure you're able to place them in the right place or don't do stupid things. Luckily, I didn't do crazy stuff, But trusting people a little bit too much. Being a little bit more aggressive in certain areas. And hopefully in time you learn, or maybe not, but hopefully as we become older, we become wiser. Hopefully. I don't know, perhaps in my next life I might be even better.
Oh, your mom's a wise lady. What she said makes sense. It's like, listen, everything that happens to you, forms who you are as a person and who you become. And like you said, that's where your lessons come from. I want to pull up these other pictures here real quick. Sean, pull up these other photos that Finis had sent over. Tell me about this here.
That was when I was telling the story of, that's the group, that gentleman behind me is Charles Walton. He was the one that was at my home doing some work, because everybody would come to my father's house with their records, or whoever was who, from Gene Chandler. I can remember Gene Chandler, the guy Duke over. I can remember these people coming to the house to let my father hear their record, to see what they thought. So anyway, Charles Walton was there when my mother said to him, "My son has a voice." And I have recordings of myself singing at 7 years old. Not sounding great, but singing that song I was telling about, Silhouette, on tape, of which I used that actual track when I did my one-man play for 2 years. So anyway, Charles Walton, that's who that is. That is the Chicago Community Music Foundation Band. And we toured around the city of Chicago in the summertime with a featured artist, which just happened to be Gene Chandler, the Duke of Earl, in the summer programs. And we would play for different organizations. So from that band, we got the guitar player and the drummer, and we formed the Weapons of Peace, of which eventually we went to California, signed to Playboy Records. And then
That's a
after
great shot.
so many years.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that picture. What's hit the next one here, Sean? What do we have? It's you and Richard Pryor.
Yeah, it's one of those nights, just happy to be in the presence. Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah.
What next one here, Sean? You and Russell Peters.
Yeah, that's Russell Peters. Russell called me up one time. He says, "Hey man, I'm down at the Comedy Magic Club. Could you come on down? Just sing something, man." Because when your record, he was a DJ, and when my record came out, he used to play it all the time. So.
Oh, I had no idea he was a DJ.
Hey,
okay.
Yeah, he said, man, come on down. I used to play your record all the time, and a couple of times we would go to see each other. And when he came in town, I brought the family down to see him at Brea. He was doing a little stuff in preparation for one of his stadium performances.
Sure.
And he wanted me to do a little drop. Like, hey, it's Finis Henderson. Skip to my Lou. I said, really, dude? So he was a fan of that song, and so that was. I was like, wow, really? All right, Mr. Peters. Can I open up to you?
Yeah, no kidding. Let's see the next picture here. This is that's you and it's Tommy Davidson?
Yeah, Tommy Davidson. Yeah, Tommy. In fact, Tommy wrote a book recently and mentioned me in that book. Tommy used to. I first met Tommy out at Comedy Act Theater, which was a black club in L.A. And he always told me he had been a fan of mine, and we just clicked off good. We've just been pals for some time, and we just call each other occasionally and talk and see each other through the airport. And I remember I auditioned for In Living Color, and they asked us to do some kind of improv shit, and anyway, Tommy got it. But he's a good guy.
Now, he is a good guy. I worked with him in Jacksonville, Florida years ago. And he was super, super nice to me when I was working with him. So, I mean, you've had a great career. You still crank it. You're still working out on the ships. You're doing corporate events. You're working casinos. I mean, as we wrap up here, by the way, people to go on your website, finis.com. There's merchandise on it. You can grab a DVD, which is amazing. Get a chance to see Finis when he's on the cruise lines. I know you work for Royal Caribbean.
I have to. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I have to get that streaming, so I don't have to package the DVD anymore. I gotta get it, so you just press in your number and you can get it, stream it or something. I gotta get that together.
Nah, you know what? I wouldn't worry about it. I think you should go back in time and you should release it as a laser disc and then as a VHS tape. You should do that. You should just, you just go backwards. Don't bother worrying about going forward.
No.
Forward, streaming's not where it's at. Finest. I wouldn't even worry about that.
Okay, G.
What mode? I have great ideas. What motivates you?
Crack cocaine. No.
Perfect.
Just I always say my children, or rather my young adults. What motivates me is wanting to hearing my mother and father's voice, even though they're gone, they were my motivators, right. Especially mom. Just I get motivated by seeing other artists.
Sure.
That are successful as much as the success that we all want. Again, we get what we put in, and then there's that wonderful thing called luck that blesses and curses people as well.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was always my motivator, the pusher. I thought my mom and dad would have been the perfect man, even though my dad managed a lot of different artists. I think the two of them would have been perfect because he would get in the door, but she was the closer. You know, she would have, you know, and she was like third in the country for Avon District managers. She's like, she worked on the South Side of Chicago and motivated this group of women and became third in the nation. So she knew, her thing was like, it's a yes and no world, as simple as that. You know, don't hesitate to ask.
No, definitely. Well, it's good to have parents that were so supportive and were so cool and so instrumental in helping you to be able to do what you do. Can you sing a quick little song about me, Finis? Could you do that? Just on the fly.
Derek! Everybody loves Derek. He gets in your face. He gets all these answers. He gets all these questions. No, he gives these questions. I don't know what to say. He likes to adjust his shirt all the time. Sitting there with a drink in his hand. I don't know what the fuck, man.
I love it. Finis, you're great. Man, thank you so much for your time, my friend. And again, people go to his website, finis.com. Finis Henderson.
Derek,
snag his DVDs. Snag the VHS when it comes out. And then stream it also when that happens.
All right, man. Hey, thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank you, man.
You're awesome, my friend. Thank you
God
so
bless.
much. We'll see you soon. Thanks,
All right,
pal.
man.
Appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank you so
Peace.
much.
Peace.
Finis Henderson. Finis Henderson. Finis.com is his website. And I do adjust my shirt all the time because this thing seems to be a little bit ill-fitting for some odd reason, but he does notice that. So check me out on the road. I'm going to be, where am I going to be? Coming up August 11th, Daytona Beach, Florida at the Last Mango Theater, August 12th, 13 in Vero Beach. August 17 through 21 at McCurdy's Comedy Club in Sarasota, Florida, and then here in Las Vegas at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club at the MGM Grand. DerekRichards.com is my website. Grab a copy of my album, Double Down, iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon. Also Apple Music, recorded live at Laughing Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers. This is Derek Richards. Can't thank you enough for joining me here on the podcast. Big thanks to my good friend, Finis Henderson. Finis.com is his website. Sean Schultz, our producer in Florida. Always a spectacular job, my friend. And we will see you next time. Cocktails on me.
You're watching Conservative Television of America, working hard to stick socialism where the sun don't shine.